Hello, everybody, and welcome to our live stream, behind the mask interview. You got some echo going on there?
Yeah, the site was unmuted.
Oh, there we go.
The camera totally messed up just now. Hold on.
Yeah, it went gray. There it is. Yeah, I was gonna say, oh, did he change it? Because I had it switched over to OBS, and then when I came back, I was like, oh, wait a minute, where'd it go? All right, so welcome to our behind the mask interview with Tony Vasinda. I'm saying that right? Vasinda?
Absolutely, yeah.
Hey, there we go. We're going to be talking about his RPG he has called Down We Go. It's a rules light RPG that's on GameFound right now. And so why don't you go ahead and get into it and tell us a little bit about it.
So about 9 months ago, this image scrolled across my Facebook page in the Minimalist RPG group over on Facebook, and it was this A5 picture of a character sheet for a game called Down We Go that actually a gentleman named Markus Linderum had cooked up and was just putting out to get feedback. And I take a lot of pride in like character sheet design for the games that I make, and it was a great character sheet, but it also had all of the rules you needed to play the game on it. So I felt like, hey, I'd love you to come on stream. I'd love you to play this. I'd love to get a chance to experience this. And we did. I just started chatting back and forth about, some of the other things that he was creating, these one-page dungeons that had this really elegant kind of design that lets you play through them numerous times. And I was like, the only thing you're really missing is kind of like a city space. But if you decided you wanted to do this, I'd love to work with you, maybe do a small print run, maybe just, 8 to 12 page little zine that we can pop out because it's such a great game. And I'd love for it to get some more attention. And so what he came back with for the city was this much larger, twisting, kind of living, constantly, moving around city that changed every time you went back down into one of these dungeons and came back. It had all these different districts in it. And they were each these very short text blocks, but they each let the kind of play that you were doing constantly evolve and created a ton of different downtime activities. And I was like, this is absolutely amazing. Here, let's do this. Let's dump a few $100s into some art. Let's find a couple contributors. And so Down We Go started becoming this bigger and bigger global project. But I'm the head developer on the game. I'm not actually the designer, but it's the first game that we're publishing at +1 that isn't a game I designed. And it's been an absolute blast to work with Markus to do the playtesting side, the development side, to kind of finesse what are some rules. There's even a conversation that came up today about something, because we play it on a fairly regular basis, both on our streams as well as now with a whole lot of other people. So it's a very simple game to pick up, and all the expanded pieces that we've added are kind of these separate procedures that give the GM what they need to be able to run the campaign on the fly. And so it's a very low prep for players, especially new ones, but a GM can also dive in, roll a couple of things randomly to pick a dungeon and a faction, and then come up with an adventure pretty much on the spot without having to do a ton of prep. So it's designed to get you in and diving into dungeons incredibly quickly.
Yeah, and everything is basically, you have like a one-page character sheet. I actually have my printed out like right here, trying to get it in front of the camera. So yeah, where it's just, the basic rules, on the one side about, I know my printer kind of cuts stuff off. I hate that. It says saves and everything. But your character sheet that you make is just on this side, for the basic, basically can keep track of your hit points and different stuff like that. I mean, if it's easier to see, I actually have it all on one page, because like this, because I got the file you sent me. But yeah, it's all like just right there. Character creation is just like 2 seconds,
Yeah, I always tell people the longest part about character creation is writing down the items that go in your inventory, right?
Yeah.
Picking what you have on you is usually what takes people the longest time. But some of the other things that were really just that I loved about the system were what we kind of call the role system. So it's not ROLL, it's the ROLE. It's these four kind of archetypical roles: the sneaky, the mystical, the holy, the bloodthirsty, that are basically a fusion of class and stats and skill all together. You can kind of build a very customized character by picking which of those four things you have some points in and have some levels in, and unlock abilities for those specific roles. Which just, again, creates this ability to not just say, okay, you're just a thief. Like, if you want to be sneaky but also have some magic abilities, it's really easy to pick, put a couple points in sneaky and a point in magic if you want to grab invisibility or pain bolt or something like that. You want to be a paladin rather than having a paladin class. It's like, take some bloodthirsty and take some holy, and that's going to give you the flavor of Paladin. It allowed a lot of flexibility in a very, very small package. And there's basically 4 rules. We've updated the GM rules so they're a little bit more robust through playtesting. We established something called like the lore as loot system, which is one of my favorite parts of it. It's the GM asks the players to answer rumors. So rather than there being rumors and the GM going, you've heard this or you've heard that or the other thing, the GM just takes the rumor questions and asks the players to say, you've heard a rumor about a party of adventurers who went down to this dungeon many years ago. What's something you heard about? And then give the name of like the cleric, right, from that party. Or you've heard there's an evil wizard that lives in this. You've heard that they have a magical staff. What's magical about it? And those things are going to give flavor to what they actually discover down in the dungeon as far as some of the encounters, some of the traps, and some of the powerful items that they'll encounter as they go down. And that just kind of came up because Markus was running it that way consistently, and I was like, wait, that's amazing, but you don't have that written down anywhere.
Yeah.
Do you want people to do that? Because that's a couple of sentences. We can add that in really easily. And so it's been a blast to kind of build things out that way.
Yeah, and that's great. And that's an awesome way to get more, make players feel more engaged with the game and like they're actually helping to contribute and build it. I know, and that's one of the things that's kind of a little bit lacking in 5th edition D&D, which is my main system that I play, is that trying to get players to feel like they're actually part of the game, or that they're helping with the world building if you're not using an established already campaign setting like Forgotten Realms or Ravenloft that they're used to. Those have main things, but yeah, to get those players in there so that they're actually helping to flesh out the world and flesh out the adventure and connect their characters to it. That's great.
It also takes a whole lot off the GM plate, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, as a GM, you're going to sit there a lot of the time, and you're going to spend, and everybody spends a different amount of time prepping. But let's say you spend an hour and a half prepping out what you're going to do in a session, right? Which is very low for some people and very high for other people. I realize that. And then your party's going to show up, and they're going to go in a completely different direction.
Yeah.
They're going to do something you didn't think about, or they're going to want to try something. One of the things I love about old school style of play, specifically the OSR style of play, is a little bit more of an emergent narrative that's like, hey, we're not necessarily looking at the same high fantasy concepts at the start. We're not looking at like, hey, you're these crazy powerful adventurers, or like you're weak and you're squishy and you're just trying to make it through the week, and going into a dungeon is one of the ways to do that. So this is what you're up to, and then as you grow in power, some of those other ideals can come in, or not, depending on the setting you're kind of running in. But that kind of narrative edge and that narrative bleed is one of the things I think old school style play does very well. That we see, like if we look at a lot of the people who do actual plays, like you see them doing this constantly. Like they're bringing in things, they're asking the players for input, they're asking, we're familiar with the "tell me what this looks like" question.
Yeah.
But that's a very limited, like, describe how this body hits the floor moment, as opposed to like the spells and abilities in the game. A lot of this, like, it's called pain bolt. Great, what does your pain bolt look like? Is it a gout of flame that shoots out? Is it lightning? Does shadows like come off the walls and cling onto the person's body and tear at their flesh? You tell me what specifically this looks like, as well as the things in there. But the ability also as a GM, like I watched the other day, we had the first actual play that was streamed that we didn't have anything to do with. Like the folks over at Weave the Tale did it. And I watched them sit down, and the GM was nervous because he had never run kind of this team brewing concept before. And it was one of the most expansive narrative stories I've seen. As they just kind of got into it, he asked them questions, they were able to speak into things. And the pathway of the story was totally woven as they were playing, even though he walked in with a set, I know you're going to go into this dungeon, and I know that there's going to be this button you're going to press at the end, and I know that there's these other pieces that you're going to do along the way. It ended up being this, like, absolutely amazing, like, druidic world tree, interdimensional, like, blending of things that they all wove together. And it gives the GM the ability at the table to really enter as a different type of player and be surprised again, which I think is what causes a lot of GM fatigue. Is we're constantly running games and we have a general idea about what's going to happen, and old school play, and specifically Down We Go, lets us open up a lot more to what are the other ideas that are at the table, because me and my players are tremendously smarter than me alone, and all of my players separately from me are still going to be smarter than I am. And so I love being able to enter into that type of play.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's awesome to hear. To be a GM, you really got to be able to think on the fly. Because like you said, you never know what the players are going to do. You could plan out only so much, and then, whoop, they're gone on some sidetrack, and then you've got to, oh, okay, well, this happened. Yeah, so that's awesome. That it lessens the amount of prep time that they have to do. So the game, I put the link up in the chat for anybody that's watching this, and anybody that's watching this afterwards on YouTube, whenever I upload it over there to rewatch, all the links will be down in the description, because I think you still have 15 days left on GameFound.
We have 15 days left over there. It's one of those things where you're always like, what's our funding goal versus what do we actually want to make, and those are usually not the same number. We built our funding goal out really conservatively. We upped it a few times because we actually really wanted to print in numerous locations, which means rather than doing one big run, doing 3 smaller runs, but being able to ship from numerous locations, avoid fees for people, shorten the supply chain, which is way more environmentally conscious. There are a lot of reasons to do it, but we also have a global team. People all over the world have contributed to this project, not just me and Markus and the lead artist, but we have designers from all over who have done small parts on this game. So we really wanted it to be something that was very accessible to everybody. And so it's been absolutely great. We're now a little bit over 200% funded. Every time we lap our funding goal, we're able to slightly increase the already great pay we were providing for all the different contributors on the project, which I'm really excited about. But we're also unlocking a little bit more expanded content, nothing that you essentially needed to play the game, but additional tables, additional content. Like right now, we're less than $100 away from getting a little like micro adventure that comes on a postcard that pits 3 of the factions in the city against each other, and you right at the middle of that trying to figure out who you're going to please, who you're going to make unhappy, and who you're going to make really unhappy. And so like that's a little piece that's getting added in, some extra dungeons and other pages by some phenomenal designers in the OSR scene. So we're really excited about all of that. And then a lot of people ask for solo rules, and so we have somebody who right now who's working on actually designing a little bit of an Oracle system, so that if you want to play by yourself, you can absolutely sit down and take some time to play by yourself too.
Yeah, it's like I'm actually on the GameFound page right now, and scrolling down. It's great that you're offering it in digital, softcover, and hardcover for the different ones. And it's not just you could also just get the 1 page of the core print rules and the digital core rules just for $5. That's it.
Yeah, which is GameFound is really unique in the fact. Well, it's really unique. It's very different than Kickstarter in some ways. It's very similar in other ones. One of the major differences. Like, people are like, you don't have a digital-only level. We do. We just don't have it built out at the top. You can scroll down to the add-ons and get the digital, but then it's like, okay, well, what's that intermediate level for somebody who, like, I want to support this, but I don't have $20 right now, right? And so the fact that our core rules were were 1 page made it really easy to be like, look, we can absolutely print this out with, the core rules, the GM section, and then one of the dungeons on the back, and send that to you, and you could still get an entire campaign out of just those 2 pages, going back into that dungeon and then kind of coming back over and over again with your friends if you want to. And so we focused on that and just moved the digital down as an add-on, which is going to get all the expanded content, but there was no reason to make it its own level up above. We want to do something a little bit different with that and highlight that minimalist reality of the game. And so that's the surface dweller level. We've got the $20 level, which is a zine version, and it's going to end up now at this point, we're going to be at least 60 pages for the zine because of those solo rules we're going to be adding in, and then all the expanded content that we've got coming. It's an absolutely gorgeous zine project, but it's just big enough also to, at that point, to start looking at a really solid kind of hardback matte finished bound book. I actually originally really wanted to try to do silver foiling on this because I just think it would be beautiful. And I would still love to do that at some point in the future, but because we're printing in 3 different locations, we're not going to have a print run that's going to be able to handle that. So we've got a $45 level that comes with one of the adventure pamphlets and the digital. My favorite level, not just because it's more money, but it's the level I would back at, is the Master Delver level, though. It is the original pamphlet adventures we launched with, the digital, a hardbound version of the game, but you also get a t-shirt and the Dungeon Synth cassette that we did with Loot the Body. So it's 4 songs, all inspired by kind of the sounds of the city and the dungeons. You can listen to it on the page. You can click through to be able to listen to it. But it's one of my favorite parts about what we're doing, and we haven't announced this yet. But if we hit 20K, which we might at this point in time, we'll expand that with 2 additional songs, and it'll have a tuck box little dungeon that comes on the outside of it. This is not it. This is another one by the folks over at Desolation Plains by Sword of Hailstones. But I love the idea, and so like doing a little hex crawl or dungeon adventure on the inside if we hit that 20K level. And so some really cool stuff we're going to be able to do with all those pieces. But that $85 level basically I think is the perfect starter set to have everything you need to be able to run a full campaign and do some really immersive stuff with the game. We got some higher levels also if you want to play a game with us, want to become an NPC in the world, want me or Marcus to run a game for you and all your friends to get copies for everybody. We've got levels that do that, but those are the ones I think are the ones I would be looking at if I was somebody who was backing the project. And so those are the ones that I tend to focus on. But yeah, it's been really great. And again, I love the way that GameFound kind of lets you highlight here's the level we actually think is a great core level for people who really want to get into the game, as well as saying, look, you can also kind of go build whatever you want on the fly by just grabbing the pieces that you want. We've had people who've just gotten t-shirts because they already downloaded the digital when we were doing our itch funding campaign, you know, like, so they're like, I'm going to get the digital list already, I just want to support the campaign, I'm going to pick up a t-shirt, you know, like, which has been a really great way to watch people support the project.
Yeah, all that stuff in those pledges, well, I think other than the play with you and Marcus and stuff like that, or running the game for them, you can get individually in those add-ons down below. Yeah, you can get the t-shirt, you get the cassette, you get this. So it's like you could grab, technically you can grab the the $5 1-page rules, and then just go grab the adventure, go grab the cassette, or a t-shirt or something separately, and it still helps to to help you guys get towards your goals. I think it said you were like 9,900 something. So you're right there, almost at 10,000, which is awesome.
We're right. I mean, it's been a great last couple of days. We had a great article by Dicebreaker and some of our friends. The actual play yesterday that we detailed did just some great response by people out in the community to it, and so it's been great. We also released a third-party license, so which is not. I'm going to tell everybody a secret. It's very different in the world of RPGs. So if anybody out there watching is mostly a board game player or designer, in RPGs, like, you love it when people take your game and want to do something.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's a huge mark of honor. And so one of the things we do, bringing the games we do at Plus One, is we'll create a third-party license, which lets other people have the support they need to be able to create those games. And so it was one of our funding goals, was as soon as we funded, we wanted to release that. We already have people who are working on their own adventures, their own kind of hacks and variants of that. So I did a space hack of it, Marcus did a post-apocalyptic one. We've got somebody who did a vampire hack of Down We Go also too. And they're great, because there are all these one-page games, or designing a dungeon, or creating factions, or a list of NPCs, or all these other pieces that you can work in to the world. And so it's been very cool to see what the community has started doing with everything also too. And unlike board games, where if you release it, somebody was like, I'm just going to start making stuff for your board game, you'd be like, whoa. For RPGs, it's like, yes, please do. You're already, as a dungeon master, you're already designing your own dungeons and thinking about a lot of these things. We would love people to say, hey, here are the tools for layout, here's how you drop things in. We're happy to help you do all of that stuff, and it's called the Together We Go license. Because we really wanted to be something that the community could kind of gather around and understand that we want people to be making things for the game, and would love to see what other people come up with.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know you mentioned a little bit the what's good about using GameFound, and I know we were talking about a little bit earlier before the live stream about GameFound versus Kickstarter. What have you found is the best thing, or would you recommend to people that were crowdfunding? Would you recommend GameFound over Kickstarter or one of the other ones?
I just did a long thread responding to some of the Avatar: The Last Airbender critiques, which I think are massively jaundiced post a successful campaign, but it's been awesome to watch. And there's a lot of real tensions there. But I think what everybody has to consider is you have to think about the best platform for your project. I'm a big fan of opening up other models of crowdfunding. There's a number of reasons for that. One, I don't think Kickstarter is an especially well-designed backend. There's some clunky things. I feel like they're slow to adapt a lot of the time because they have such a large market share. And that's not to say it's a bad tool. One of the biggest things you're looking for with a Kickstarter is marketing reach, or crowdfunding projects with marketing reach, which Kickstarter is going to kill everyone at. There's no way to compare Kickstarter to GameFound when it comes to discoverability, especially for RPGs. We're only the second RPG going up on GameFound. It's overwhelmingly other board games, even though it's tabletop content focused. Board and card games are mainly what it's done. And so you've got to be able to have a product that you can be really confident in, and you've got to know how to do the marketing work if you're going to come over to GameFound. We're probably not getting as much money as we would get on Kickstarter, but I think GameFound overall is a superior tool for a couple reasons. One, there's some basic quality of life things, the ability to have the featured pledge, the ability to show what your current stretch goal is at the top as you're still funding so that people know you're still making this bigger and better. The ability to navigate on that sidebar, all those from a backer experience. Every backer who I know who's tried it for the first time have all been like, oh, I really love this experience as a backer. It's easy to navigate, it's easy to find the information I want to find, make a decision and move forward. Lots of people are like, I'll be honest, I didn't read the page. I just hit rewards, like I watched the video, hit rewards, looked at what I wanted to back, and then that was it. And you're like, that's a great thing to hear. Like that means that you watched the video, you were hooked, and you were able to get right where you wanted to get. Other people are like, I went and looked down at the team to see who was involved before I decided I wanted to back. That's great. You're able to hop right down there and get that information. So some of those quality of life pieces are there, but the other one that cannot be underscored is GameFound is also a pledge manager. I'm not having to go out and either figure out how I'm doing all of the shipping information gathering or accessing another resource. I'm able to just switch it over because there's basically 3 views as you're building your campaign. There's the pre-campaign, so I get this great preview that's a little bit more of a foretaste of what the actual campaign is going to look like, which we saw a ton of people come in and follow the campaign more than any other campaign I've had by 3 times as much. Because they were able to see, here's what's going on in this campaign. Here's some of the stuff that's coming up. I've got a very good sense of what this game is and what this campaign is going to be about. Then you go live, and there's the live version of your campaign, which can be the same or different as the preview one. And then afterwards, you've got your pledge manager version, which again is a third build out. So you're going to move to more, this is the information you need to know if you're a backer, or if you're discovering this game for the first time and we've already finished funding, here's how you're going to access this. And there's going to be common things between all those, but they're each going to have a different focus. And so immediately, as soon as you're done and ready to pop that up with all your shipping information in it, you already have a excellent point of sale contact for anybody who missed a campaign and still wants to back the game. So you're already in the process of doing that. It's already ready to be built out, and you can be doing that at any point in the campaign. You can even have that ready to go beforehand if you know the weights and costs and everything else that you need for that, which again, is such a huge quality of life increase. So I think we're going to see Kickstarter, and I also think we're going to see BackerKit. I would not be surprised, in a lot of ways, respond over the course of the next year to what GameFound is doing. Having talked to the team there, they're not trying to be better than Kickstarter. They're trying to be the best GameFound that they can be, because it's a different focused platform and market. And I think anytime you're pursuing success, that's the other thing. The last one is just a big important thing for me. It's a company with 6 people on the support team, 7 people on the programming team. Right the day before I went live, the CEO was like, hey, I love the campaign. Here's a question I have for you. Have you thought about this? The day I went live, when we funded, the CEO sent me another one, very personal, very specific to the campaign, congratulating us on funding. Not long, but obviously not a form thing. It was an email written to me by that. That level of human contact is actually a high value for me, and I think is really important. But also, I felt comfortable going into that space. There are other projects that I would put on Kickstarter because I want the discoverability. But one of my other big things is there are RPGC, the Southeast Asian RPG community, and the RPG Latin American community are locked out of Kickstarter. They can't use it. Brazil is a huge point for that. The Philippines and Malaysia are also. Brazilian creators can access GameFound. And when I asked the question, why can certain countries can and can't, they were able to give me a very clear answer. It's about their payment process. This is all nerdy behind the scenes stuff, but it's stuff I really care about, and it's one of the reasons I'm excited to use the platform. In RPGC, there's only one country that you can do it, and there's not a lot of designers there, but it at least creates the opportunity for, if you have a business partner in your region, you can still launch. You don't have to depend on U.S. or Western like business support in order to be able to do it. You could theoretically do it all within the Southeast Asian community. And so those are really cool things that I'm incredibly excited about for the platform. And so if their beta is currently closing out, and they're kind of in the process of figuring out where they're going to be going next and how they open it up for everybody. So they're not taking a lot of people right now, but once they open it up, anybody who has a good marketing wing, anybody who knows that their audience will follow them over to GameFound, I absolutely would encourage you to check out the platform. If you're a small creator who's really just looking to get started, there are some really great marketing tools on GameFound, but you're gonna have to do a lot of work to attract your audience. But if you have any questions, I'd encourage people to reach out at +1. We're always happy to help support people who are going through and navigating that process. So I'm happy to work with and support anybody who's making that choice.
Yeah, I know we said a little about when we were talking about the beforehand about the different pledge levels. You said you don't have a retailer's pledge level on this for Down We Go, but that there is a little section. I showed it when I was on the website earlier. I stopped on it so people could see it. That all they have to do is to email you. Email you. And what is it? It's Tony at +1.
Tony at +1exp.com. And here's the thing: you're gonna get everything I would normally offer at a retail level. Here's what I hate about retail levels on Kickstarters: is everybody has different feelings on what they should be, which is fine. But we all know kind of the core things that retailers want. But if I decide give me $2, well, that's a whole lot more work with me following up with you, going back and forth, all the things like that. But that's a pain, right? If I say, hey, here's a 6-pack of games or a 12-pack of games, great, that may work for you. But a lot of the retailers that I work with want 20 or 50 copies, and so when I sell them 6, I'm dramatically underselling what I want to be able to do. And it doesn't make sense for them to back at a way higher level and us to figure that out later also. So rather than doing any of that, and this is pretty consistent on GameFound at the moment, what I did was just say email me. Email me, I'll get you in the system. We have 3 retailers who already have, a couple others who have messaged me just on social media to say they're interested. And we'll be doing that. And some of our international fulfillment partners are also retailers. So we're going to be just upping their order as they're doing fulfillment and make sure that they're available for them. And so there's a lot there. So if you're a retailer out there watching and you want to get copies, we're going to give them to you at 50% off. We're going to get you an extra copy if you're at brick and mortar stores so you can showcase it. We're going to do a lot of the things that we always do to make sure that retailers are well supported. There is never a good way to build that into Kickstarter or GameFound or a lot of other things. And the other thing is, anytime you have that 50% discounted level, you have so many people who click it because they don't read what the rules are. One more thing to figure out. And so my experience has just been like, if you want a lot of copies, here's a slightly discounted level for you and your play group. We can get like a 4-pack on there for that. Or if you're a retailer, just send me an email.
Yeah. So Nolan, Christine of Black Ruin Games, if you're watching, send him an email because I know a lot of your customers are RPG based and they will want to. They're gonna want to grab this. And I might actually. I'll talk to you guys later about running it at the store because I got a whole thing of adventures here, the Tomb and other stuff in the Infinitopolis. Part of it. So yeah, bestiary from what Tony has provided me. So yeah, we'll see about running that at the store in hopefully the next 15 days before the campaign ends, and then see if they'll jump in on a retail pledge.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else before we wrap this up that you'd like to tell us about the campaign?
So the number one thing I love talking about, and I am the most proud of it, if you want to even pull the campaign page back up, I am the most proud of our team. So as a developer, I've written some words for the game, right? I've made one of the first hacks of the game, our space hack Through the Void. I'm incredibly excited about all the things that can happen with this and to see where the community goes. But a big part of that was also saying, I want to rally a community of designers around this. So we basically, I asked Markus, who are kind of your dream contributors, right? And tell me their name. And as I was going through those, it was like, okay, I'm contacting Diogo down in Brazil to do a stretch goal. I'm working with Carl on Skull Fungus on art for some of this. We're working with all these different people all over the place, and it became like, how do we invite as many different voices into this process as possible to take ownership of a really small section and build on what's happened there? And so that's Aaron King did these absolutely evocative and amazing factions that have power in the city, and they're not like like the police, whether they're there probably will be law enforcement factions that pop up, but whether they're all the same faction or different factions doesn't matter. But there are things like the dirt lickers who are obsessed with rare and random types of earth and create earth elementals to do their bidding. There's the sinuous rills who constantly redraw the lines between all the different shifting sections of the city. There's also the seal clubbers who are not hurting small animals. They are a party that dislikes the sinuous rills because they believe in breaking locks and destroying seals and making sure that there are no boundaries that limit anything. And so there are these constantly shifting factions, and Aaron did an absolutely great job of giving the GM everything they need in a very tight format to say, here's a general description, here are some of their wants and their needs, here's things they might want from adventurers, here's secrets they have, and then here's a one-page set of faction rules as you curry favor or disfavor with the different factions that'll let you know what benefits and bad things befall you based on that. We have, Ava Islam, who designed Errant, who did fabulous Canadian designer who's doing our hex crawl rules, and Madeline Ember, who's doing the art and another hex crawl also too. We've got Sam and now BJ and Pamu from Malaysia and the Philippines, so the RPGC community, who are each adding events or locations in the city. BJ's expanding our bestiary. But rather than saying, like, here's what we want you to do, we went to them and said, hey, here's what we've got, and here's some of the places we want to fill in, NPCs, things like that. What is the thing you would be most excited to work on that fits in really with your skill set? And built the projects that they were adding in around the things that those designers are tremendously gifted at, and bringing in very unique voices. And so I've just been a big fan of, like, I think more people need to consider, as you're developing a game, especially when you're thinking about diversity, don't think about we need diverse voices or faces. You do, but don't think about it that way. Think about, what will a voice that is different than my own bring to this project that is something that I can't, and then empowering them to do that work, right? By providing funds for them, by paying them well, by inviting them into the project and giving them ownership of an area, letting them bring their voice and place their mark on this game. So, like, really, Markus is the designer, I'm the developer, Simone is the lead artist, but this is our game. Like, this is everybody who's worked on it has a piece of ownership on this game, has been able to speak into processes and procedures and other things that give the GM more tools for different types of adventures they can run, and it's been an absolutely tremendous piece to consistently grow that team now through our stretch goals also too, and just watch the amazing things that people have come up with. So the team, as the person who put it together, is 100% the piece I am the most part of. I've always tell people, like, you can't market your team unless they're huge names, but I'm a big fan of sharing the amazing people that are on my team with the people who are backing our games, because I would love your support on our game, but also I would love you to go check out the work that David does, or the work that Andrew does, or the work that Aaron does, and see all the great things that they make also. So it's a huge focus for me, and I would love people to go, even if you don't back our game, if you could look at the team and you see some of the work that they do and that excites you, I would love you to support the amazing group of people we pulled together.
Yeah, and everybody can see that on the campaign page, and they can see, I've got it pulled up right here, that below the little description, you've got their links to their websites or their Twitters. I don't spend a lot of time on Twitter. I probably should. And also Instagram. Simone's got you got her Instagram.
Depends on whatever people's primary platform is. That's what we ended up plugging. I mean, again, there are people who, like, they'll put up their pictures or their names. There are people who refuse to give good credits to the co-designers, and I don't think you should support those people. We really wanted to go a completely different direction, very intentionally, in saying, like, hey, we want you to be as excited about these people's work as you are about our project, because this is their work also too. And so, like, we had a 12-day lead up on the campaign where I was every day, like, sharing a different contributors, page over on our social media, who they are, what they do, where they're located, and then where you could go and support them. And so, like, for me, again, how we're building up that community is a huge part of the way that we make decisions at +1, and it's something that goes into everything we do. Down We Go has been the best and biggest incarnation of that so far, and it's been a thrill to do. Yeah, it's great to put on there. I know I was talking to a developer friend of mine a couple years ago. I think about 2 years ago, we were at a convention, and he was mentioning that he'd worked on a game, and then he always makes sure he checks in the rule book afterwards to make sure that him and his, the people that work with him on helping develop games are actually credited in the rule book.
And that's a great thing for designers to do. You got people working on your game. Give them credit. Everybody that works on the game. Yeah, so that's awesome that you guys do that. All right. Well, thank you for taking time to sit down and talk with me. I got a one last question I usually ask people during interviews. Usually it's live stream, whatever they're on live stream interviews. Do you like my sideburns?
I do. I love your sideburns.
Oh,
I mean,
awesome, yeah.
So people who don't know this, I didn't give the normal introduction I give at the beginning.
Okay.
The normal introduction I give. We can use it kind of as an outro. Is my name's Tony Vasinda. I'm Chief Alchemist at Plus One EXP, and we're a weird little brand that multi-classes in tabletop game design, beard and skincare alchemy in the Bardic College of Content Creation. Our hope and desire is to help amazing designers find great players who love their games, and help great players find amazing designers whose games they can love. You can find everything we do at Plus One EXP. You can find the game that we talked about today at ttrpg.link/DWGLive or in the comments. But I'm a huge fan of facial hair. I mean, I'm a facial hair aficionado. I love that your chops are almost touching at this point in time.
Oh yeah, I shaved last Monday. And I never shave. I don't like going all the way skin whenever I shave. I always leave a little bit of stubble because and then I have to have the facial hair. If I don't, I look like I'm like 16. And
if you're looking for a little chop, moisturizer, head over to plus1exp.com. You can get our handmade, alchemically inspired beard balms that work great on sideburns also too, especially ones that go down into the beards. And min-max your way through your day.
Awesome. I know my brother-in-law. He had this mustache. He was growing a big mustache for a while, and he had it where the mustache wax and this and that. And I'm like, that's too much work to do for me. I was like, but yeah, this is starting to get a little bit dry after a while, and I'm starting to get older, so yeah, I might actually have to go over there and check that out.
Take care of that skin underneath.
Yep, exactly. All right, so once again, thank you for taking the time, and I can't wait to see exactly how far down we go. It looks like it's awesome, and yeah. So yep. So thank you, Choppers, for tuning in. Stay tuned for more great behind the mask interviews that we have coming up, and our great guests that we have planned for the next upcoming weeks. And thank you for tuning in.